In my opinion, video always looks better when somebody's actually holding the camera rather than putting your camera on a tripod. But let's be honest, sometimes you can't find an extra hand to hold your camera while you're making your videos. Today I'm going to show you some of the tips and tricks that I use to make it look like I always have a second cameraman. So I hope you guys liked that little cinematic sequence you just saw. I'm going to show you exactly how I got every single one of those shots only filming by myself. But to start, if you don't have a rope to do that little hack where you put the tripod on two legs to make it look like somebody's holding it, I'm going to show you the software that's in Final Cut Pro that can give you that handheld look at the end of this video. I was able to pull off this writing shot by putting the ZV-1 on a table dolly, then tying a string to it, putting up two little light tripods at the end of the table, and then looping the string around it, tying the string to my leg, and then as I wrote, I just closed in my knee. But I never knew how hard it would be to actually write and close in my knee at the same time. But it's pretty hard. Let's go get the next shot. Whoa. Before we go outside to demonstrate some of those moving shots, I just wanted to show you how I did this over-the-shoulder shot where I made it look like the camera was actually tilting forward. So I made sure that my head and the notebook were both in the frame, and this is one of the reasons why I put those black bars on the top and the bottom, so that I had some room to play with the actual image itself in post-production. So I didn't actually tilt the camera at all, it's on a tripod. All I did was move the position in post-production using Final Cut Pro, and I'll show you how I did that at the end of this video if you're interested. Now, in order to get some of those shots, we had to use several different cameras and several different setup configurations. We used the Sony ZV-1 as our A-cam, the Osmo Action to get some of those water shots, and our secret weapon, the Mavic Air, to get some of those over-the-head shots. The first shot I'm going to demonstrate for you is the over-the-head shot where we put the Mavic Air right above the roofline and had it follow me as I walked out of the door. This is how I did it. As you can see for that shot, I had to actually hold the remote in my left hand and push the joystick forward. It took me like 10 times before I finally got it right because I kept on putting the drone over my head where you could still see the controller. So I had to put the drone off to the right a little bit. Now let's go get our next shot. So the way that I got this next shot is I put the drone up in the air about 4 feet behind me and I had it follow my right arm as I walked out towards the water. Now the key here is to make sure that the drone did not see the remote that was in my left hand because I didn't want to reveal how I was getting that shot. It was a little bit tricky and I had to do a little scaling inside of Final Cut Pro. For the most part, I got the shot exactly how I envisioned it. For this next walking shot, we got the old paint stick out with the gimbal. You guys remember that hack from the hack video? We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna put the camera on the gimbal. We're gonna set the gimbal to lock so that it stays level and also in the same direction as it starts. And then we're gonna just flip the gimbal around and get a low angle walking shot. So I'm shooting this in 120 frames per second. I'm using my favorite picture profile 6, which is Cine 2. And I'm gonna kind of do a parallax with my arm as I'm walking so I can really get a good shot at my shoes. Actually, there's a correction. I actually left the gimbal in pan follow mode, not lock mode, because I wanted to do a parallax around my shoes. But there are times where I would put the lock on to make sure that it just stays in one direction, like this next shot. So what I wanted to get was backward shot as I'm moving towards the camera. Almost impossible to hold it out with my left arm. So it's kind of like a selfie stick shot. So I set the gimbal up, I set it to lock, camera set, ready to go. I flipped the screen around on the ZV-1 so I could see what I'm looking at, and then I just move forward. So for this shot, I left the camera on the gimbal, and then I used my left arm to do like a selfie stick parallax pan, and I just looked out at the place and swung the camera around, kind of like in a parallax selfie move. So the way that I got this next shot is I actually used the drone again, and I put the drone about 24 inches above the ground, just like this, and I just had it track back and forth with me in the background. I thought this would be a good way to give myself a reveal shot without actually holding the camera. So all I did was move the drone in one direction like this. It was kind of scary because I didn't want to hit the tree and I didn't want to hit the bushes. Another thing to remember when you're flying the drone that close to bushes or to trees is to turn off the obstacle avoidance system on the drone. All right, let's go get the next shot. So for these still tripod shots, I made sure to have some very close-ups because I wanted to give the whole storyline some type of context. I basically just put the ZV-1 up on a tripod and I brought it really close to my face, and I just kind of like looked down like when I was about to take the bottle out of my pocket, or I looked off to the lake like I knew the bottle was gonna go somewhere. So for all of these shots, I just left the camera on a tripod and I did really close-up shots, and I used the screen to see exactly what the frame was seeing. So the way that I got the shot is I put my Osmo Action on a flex tripod. I hooked it up to the side of a boat to where the Osmo Action was just above the surface of the water. I connected my iPhone to the Osmo Action so I could see what it was seeing. Then I pushed it out a little bit, and then I threw the bottle right in front of the Osmo Action. Just imagine how many times I had to do that in order to get that shot right. And then I just did some scaling in post-production to make it look like the camera was going up and down, or I should say tilting. That's how I got that shot. As you remember from the camera moves video, there was a handheld shot, and I really wanted to incorporate that into my little video. So the way that I did that, or the way I thought about it, was as soon as the bottle hits the water, it'd be really cool to have like a really close-up, you know, of it splashing at 120 frames per second. So the way that I did this is I focused on one of these seaweeds that are in the water so that I knew where my focus window was, and then I threw my bottle in that focus window, and then we put it into slow motion in post-production. The way that I got this final shot is I actually took that little bottle out to the middle of the lake with a boat, put it in the water, came back to land, took off with my drone, and did a vertical up with the drone. And then I went out to the lake to retrieve the bottle. If you like that video, please let me know in the comments below how you would write the rest of that story. What's your favorite shot, and also anything that you might have learned. Until the next video, I'm Joe with Potter Made, and let's grow as we go. Peace. All right, as promised, I want to show you guys how to get handheld looking footage even if you're on a tripod if you're using Final Cut Pro. I know they have this effect in Premiere Pro as well. You just go to your effects panel in Final Cut Pro, search handheld, and then you go ahead and drag the handheld effect into the clip that you want to make it look like somebody's holding it. I usually click on the clip, and then I take the shakiness down to 10 to make it look a little bit more realistic. And that's all you need to do. So I hope you guys liked that little cinematic sequence you just saw. I'm gonna show you exactly how I got every single one of those shots, only filming by myself. Now I'm gonna show you guys how to tilt in post-production. I'm using Final Cut Pro for this, but you can do it in any video editing software. Now I got the clip selected here. See how the handheld effect is already applied. I'm gonna go up to the installed titles, come over to custom, bring down a look grade adjustment layer. If you guys don't have an adjustment layer installed in Final Cut Pro, I'll leave a Google Drive link to an adjustment layer that you can install into Final Cut Pro, and then you can use the same exact adjustment layer. So I go ahead and drag it on top of the clip. Then I'm gonna go ahead and search for letterbox. Then I'm gonna drag the letterbox onto the adjustment layer. Then I'm gonna change it to 2x35x1. And now I'll have room to play with the positioning of the clip. So I click on the clip, make sure that the cursor is on the front of the clip. Then I come to the position, click on a keyframe. I'll move it all the way down to where the image starts to come above the letterbox, and then I'll bring it back down right below the letterbox. Then I'll scroll the timeline to the end of the clip, and I'll move the position all the way to the very top where the clip starts to come below the letterbox. So I know I was able to tilt as far as I could go. And that's it. So this is what it looks like.